3. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Spin Lob podcast. This is our first ever podcast we've done together. I am one of your hosts, Mike Jones, and joining me today is Nick Hellwig. Nick, how's it going?
Going well, well as it can be stuck inside. Tonight's podcast is going to be episode 1, season 1, all about us. The whole idea for this podcast was to stay connected with water polo, especially now that we can actually be playing water polo. It's kind of inspired by the Nearside Low podcast out of St. Louis. One of my former teammates to club water polo in high school, and actually I played against him. It kind of runs it out of St. Louis. It's a fantastic one. If you've never listened to theirs, you should. It's fantastic. They go through everything that is Missouri water polo, but then they'll touch on a lot of national things as well. The idea about we're going to be talking about water polo all throughout the state of Ohio, everything from the youth water polo, high school and club and collegiate and master's level water polo, but topics that are interesting to you and that are more about you that you want to hear about. We'll bring in guest speakers from coaches to players across the state as well as across the country to give you kind of their view of water polo. But tonight's episode is just going to kind of give us a little taste of what's going to happen, give a little introduction of who Mike Jones is as a water polo player as well as myself, and then kind of leave it at that. So I will let Mike kick off our introductions.
Thanks, Nick. So to give you a little background, I've been playing water polo since 1996. I started off in an age group program called River City, which is based out of Cincinnati. And then I played for Sycamore High School. And then I went on to play collegiate club at Ohio University. And since leaving OU, I started the Ohio Squirrels Water Polo Club. It's a master's team in Cincinnati. And that's been going on since about 2007. So we're in a pretty good stretch here of about 13 years. Nick, how about you? What's your background like?
I started out in St. Louis. I'd never played water polo or even really heard about it until orientation of my freshman year, where the water polo coach came out to our orientation. I went to a private guys high school, St. Louis University High School, and part of the orientation was just a fun time for us to play in the pool, and they threw a ball in, and he saw that I could swim and throw a ball, so he said, hey, you should come out and try to play some water polo. And from there, played a little club with Daisy and Jungle Cat, and then went on to the University of Dayton, where I actually competed against Mike Jones often in our tournaments and stuff like that, where he played for OU. And then when I moved down to Cincinnati, finally got a teaching job at Sycamore High School, and the first day I walked in there, asked if I could help coach, and they said we actually don't have a coach for the girls or guys. So I ended up my first year teaching at Sycamore was also my first year teaching or coaching the boys and the girls program. And after the first season, really kind of realized there was not a club season anymore in Cincinnati, which was odd in St. Louis that we had multiple club teams there. And so really worked on founding Moose Water Polo with Paul Split and got that up and running. And then I currently moved over to head the Marlins water polo program. And then I have also joined with the Squirrels and continue to play with them for the last couple of years. So brings us together with a lot of alumni and stuff like that as well. Mike, so, the big question right now is we can't get in the pool. We can't play. We're normally playing on Sundays and Wednesdays. What are you doing to stay active?
So in regards to just water polo, staying active, I'll narrow it down, then I'll bring it wider. I'm watching a lot of old DVDs that I have of the game. So I have a lot of Olympic DVDs from Rio Olympics, even before that, some FINA games, and even some NCAA games that I have received in the past. So watching them. I do have the recordings on my TV still from when they're on ESPN and from the Olympics. And then, just scrolling through and looking at all the social media surrounding of the memories of water polo, whether it's by friends of the West Coast, East Coast. I know Greg Mescal's been doing interviews with players. So from a water polo standpoint, I'm just trying to stay updated. From a fitness level, I still do a lot of running. I do workouts in my own house, but nothing to the extent of what water polo gave me. So Nick, what about you?
Water polo wise, trying to figure out what's going on with the high school team. We just had really started gearing up for our off season. We just started lifting more regularly with swimming ending, and we're looking at trying to get back in the pool, and that kind of all came to a screeching halt. So I'm actually meeting with my captains via Google Chat on Monday to try to figure out what we want to do our next step forward. I'm currently working with Sergeant Mitchell with the Ohio National Guard to create an at-home program to, get our guys in shape. We're all going to follow the same program, kind of build on that. But me personally, what I've been doing is getting out of my bike. I got that out of storage, biking with my daughter, just around the neighborhood, and just trying to find ways to stay active as much as possible. I've done more yard work in March than I think I've ever done before in March. As being a dad, it's been, really hard because I still teach online, but my kids are also trying to learn online, and I'm home. So they want, dad time, having twin 5-year-olds and an 8-year-old. It's a lot of more activities and stuff that we've been doing. And Mike, you've got a couple of kids. What have you guys been doing with your kids?
Yeah, so I have 3 kids, 7, 5, and 1, and same approach. So I'm working from home. I work for Western Southern Financial Group, but I'm sitting in my basement when I'm working now. And so they've come down to check on me. They've interrupted several conference calls and WebExes and Zooms with associates, and it's actually pretty hilarious. But what I try to do is every couple hours I go outside with them, especially if it's nice, just to get some fresh air, blow bubbles, do something somewhat normal, and get some energy out of them. By 4 or 5 o'clock, 5:30, my wife, who's been doing something similar as you, Nick, she's a school teacher, she's ready to throw them out of the house. So we try to just go for a walk and get out of there for a little bit, and then we just start winding down. It is not easy. This is an adjustment for everybody, including the children. And so we just try to keep ourselves level headed and always have kind of a productive plan. They're doing academics throughout the day too, math, reading, and words and numbers and things like that. So if everyone can work together and we can get through this, I think it'll be a learning experience that we can look back on, and we can probably rely on going forward that we have been able to do this together. So.
Yeah, there's been a lot of things I've kind of been watching online and talking with some people, um, across the country.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff as well. So one of the things that I've noticed within social media is that Maggie Steffens and Tony Azevedo puts on a video every day, and actually,
Their seasons are
and
being cut short.
can you hear me, Nick?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, you got cut off, so I'll just take over. So Maggie and Tony put together a podcast every day, essentially, of all the workouts that they workout program, so you can follow that. I know they've actually highly encouraged it, and if you tweet at them, they will reply back with, if you tweet at them with what you're doing, they'll reply back and keep encouraging you. And so I think that's great to have that kind of feedback from such great professionals on the West Coast. I know I mentioned Greg Meskel's been doing daily interviews with water polo players from across the country. So I think today they had one with an individual from Harvard water polo program, and the accessibility is there because they're able to reach out and connect with you if you have any questions, just to keep you active with the sport.
Yeah, and I think that's key is staying connected. That's gonna be big. Talking with Miguel and Don Casey in St. Louis, they talked about how they might be losing their spring season, and talking with some of the Michigan coaches as well, like the girls programs might be done for this season. And just a news article today from OSHA talked about that the fall season may be pushed back or delayed too. So there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to go on. So trying to figure out how this is all going to work is going to be new to all of us. So, we want to hear from you guys on how you guys are staying active. Cincy Water Polo at gmail.com, CNCI Water Polo at gmail.com, where you can tweet at us. at Cincy Water Polo online on Twitter as well, and let us know what you're doing on all that type of stuff. Um, Mike, anything else you can think of or add that we might be wanting people to know about?
Yeah, so I didn't mention I officiated high school water polo for 10 years, and I will tell you, if you're not actively reffing, you start losing it. In the fall season, I'm used to doing 80 to 90 games in that fall season, and you're getting your A game going. And if in the spring is when you shape up your game to get ready for the fall. If you're just focused on high school, and it was I always had to put in a good amount of games in the spring and the summer, and now we don't have those games. So I would say to any official out there that is still trying to hone their craft and get ready, watching film and watching how refs are calling games may be the only thing you can do right now. So Googling Olympic games, Googling any kind of NCAA games that are online, and trying to watch that. I know a lot of games get posted on the internet, on YouTube these days too. So keeping up with that and scenarioizing yourself and what you would call in that situation, maybe putting the whole thing on mute and just watching to see what should I call, what would I call, what was called, and helping you with that. I work closely with Chad Packer. He's the head official for Ohio Water Polo, and he always said it's all about just getting as much games in as possible to get yourself centralized and watching that same routine of that call over and over again so it's cemented in your mind. And that's always stuck out for me, and I've always had to put that through myself when I'm, even in practices when we're making that call, those calls, and I've seen that call before. So getting prepared for that is very good. So any kind of Google searching you can do on that or the internet. Maybe it's something you, Nick, you can put out on your social media, Twitter, help build that momentum towards that as well.
Yeah. Could you imagine though, how many angry parents we might have if we're encouraging their kids to grab a whistle, watch a game inside, and blow a Fox 40 in your small living room? I can imagine the hate mail we might get from parents. But players, all kind of jokes aside, if you really want to understand the game, I think refereeing is that side. And once we get back in the pool, try it. If you really want to step into the shoes of an official, hop up on deck and blow that whistle. It is hard. I'll have my seniors and captains ref occasionally, and they hate it because it is hard. It's easy to criticize a referee and even as a coach, but as soon as you've got that whistle in your hand, it's exhausting. Walking back and forth and thinking and watching, you get tired after just a couple minutes of it. So, yeah, definitely a whole different perspective on that.
So Nick, you talked about some upcoming stuff or what we plan to do the next couple of weeks. What do you think you got on the mind on the lineup?
So coming up in the next couple of weeks, we just actually got off of one of the last tournaments possibly of this, 2020 right now was the Nutty Invite. So we'll talk with the Squirrels on how that all went, and we'll invite, some coaches on to talk about how they're trying to keep their players active during this time off. And then looking at spotlighting some local teams and some teams around the state, talking with different members from past teams even, or even talking with the board members, and then looking at maybe down the line, talking with some high-level coaches from across country. But a lot of things that are in the plan should be pretty exciting. If you have topics you want us to talk about or you got questions, send us an email, send us a voice message, and we can put that question up there and kind of reach out to you and talk to you about your questions, see what you're thinking.
Yeah, and what's that email address, Nick? If anyone wants to provide ideas or and could ask questions that venue as well.
Yeah, sure. It's Cincy Water Polo, CINCI waterpolo@gmail.com, and we will get your questions answered on air or the topics that you want to talk about. And that's all I've got for tonight. Mike, how about anything to sign us off?
No, that's good. Yeah, so thank you for joining us on our first ever Spin Lob podcast. I am your co-host, Mike Jones, and joining me is Nicholas Hellwig, and thanks for taking some time to listen.